3 bone-chilling true roommate horror stories that haunt you forever. Jess's heart raced as she heard the whispers echoing down the darkened hallway of her college dorm. It was late, and the flickering lights cast sinister shadows that danced along the walls, creating an atmosphere thick with dread and unease. What had been a cozy home away from home quickly morphed into a nightmare when she learned the horrifying truth about her new roommate, Clara. Clara wasn't just an ordinary girl. She had a chilling past that sent shivers down Jess's spine. Rumors spread like wildfire on campus, and they all pointed to a dark secret, one that haunted Clara like a ghost at every turn. Every night, Jess would catch Clara talking softly to the shadows, her voice barely above a whisper, but it was just loud enough that Jess could hear snippets. Words like, "help," "never again," and "please don't." Jess tried to brush it off, thinking maybe Clara was just lonely or struggling with the adjustment. But then, there was that night. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, when Jess woke up to find Clara standing at the foot of her bed, staring blankly at the wall. The room reeked of something foul, a heavy odor that prickled at the back of Jess's throat. Clara's eyes were wide, almost vacant, and it sent a wave of ice through Jess's veins. "Clara, what are you doing?" she had whispered, her voice trembling. Clara had slowly turned, tears streaming down her cheeks, and in a trembling voice, she murmured, "They want to let me sleep, they want me to join them." The terror in Jess's chest tightened, the shadows in the corners seemed to creep closer, as if they were alive, drawn to the fear that crackled in the air. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The next day, Jess confronted Clara, trying to coax her into revealing more. Clara's laughter was hollow, her eyes flickering with something dark and disturbing. "The time is coming, you know," she said mysteriously, her voice barely a whisper. "You'll see. You'll all see." Jess tried to laugh it off, but her chest was tight, a lump forming in her throat. She brushed her fingers against the door frame, feeling that creeping sense of something wrong, something that lurked just beneath the surface of Clara's haunting words. What happened next was even more unnerving. One evening, Jess returned from class to find the room completely empty. Clara's belongings were gone, but a single photograph remained ominously placed on the bed. It was an old, faded picture of the dorm room taken decades ago, and in the background, a girl with Clara's unmistakable face stared eerily back at her with a sinister grin. As Jess's breath caught in her throat, she felt the hair stand up on the back of her neck. Who had taken that picture? How could it exist? The question echoed in her mind, and the unsettling realization dawned on her. Clara wasn't just her roommate, she was part of something far more sinister. This wasn't just a creepy dorm experience, it was the start of an unfolding terror. Who was Clara really? What had she gotten herself into? And why did Jess feel like she was now standing on the precipice of a dark revelation that could change everything? Jess's mind raced as she stared at the photograph, her heart pounding in her chest. The uncanny resemblance between Clara and the girl in the picture was impossible to ignore. She squinted, trying to discern the details in the dim light. The girl's expression was unsettling, eerily joyful, yet somehow melancholic, as if she knew a secret that no one else could understand. The silence of the empty room pressed down on her, filling her with a sense of urgency. Where had Clara gone? Why hadn't she said anything about moving out? A chill ran through Jess, making her glance towards the door. What if Clara's past was catching up to her in a way Jess couldn't comprehend? Taking a shaky breath, she decided to investigate. Maybe there were answers nearby. She gathered her courage and left the dorm room, determined to find someone who could help her unravel the mystery of her former roommate. As she walked through the dimly lit hallways, shadows seemed to flutter just out of reach, mocking her every step, Jess found herself at the campus library, where students quietly studied around her. She approached a librarian, an older woman with sharp eyes who had always seemed to know everyone's business on campus. "Excuse me, have you heard anything about a girl named Clara?" Jess asked, her voice trembling. The librarian's expression shifted, something flickered behind her eyes. "Clara?" she said slowly, as if tasting the name. "Yes, I remember her. The stories, they've haunted this place for years." "What stories?" Jess probed, her frustration bubbling. "What do you mean?" The librarian glanced around and then leaned closer. "Years ago, there was a girl who lived in this very dorm. She disappeared without a trace, and people say she never left. They say some girls who stay in this room hear her whispers, that she comes back looking for something she lost. Her name was Clara." Jess's heart pounded like a drum, the pieces of the puzzle beginning to fit, though they only made her more alarmed. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" She took a step back, her mind racing with the implications. Before the librarian could respond, a loud crash echoed from deeper within the library, followed by an unnatural silence. Fear clawed at Jess's throat. She glanced at the librarian, whose face had gone pale as she grabbed Jess's wrist. "You need to leave. Now." But Jess didn't want to leave, she wanted answers. Ignoring the librarian's grip, Jess felt drawn toward the source of the noise. It was as if an invisible force compelled her to investigate, to uncover the truth behind Clara's haunting. As she moved cautiously toward the back room, the air turned icy, sending shivers down her spine. The dim light flickered overhead, casting erratic shadows on the walls. She stepped inside, gasping at the sight before her. Books were strewn about, but it wasn't the chaos that jarred her. At the center of the room stood a swirling mass of shadows, writhing as if alive. Whispers filled the air, growing louder, drowning out her thoughts. Help us, join us." Jess stumbled back, feeling her heart race faster. It was the same pleading voice she had heard from Clara. Panic surged through her veins as she realized she was standing at the crossroads of an unfathomable decision: stay and confront whatever lay ahead, or flee and risk losing Clara forever. Suddenly, a cold gust swept through the room, extinguishing the feeble light, plunging Jess into darkness. She could feel the presence closing in around her, the whispers screaming in her ears. It felt like they were dragging her into the shadows, pulling her into the very darkness she feared. With her heart pounding, Jess made a desperate choice and called out, "Clara! I'm here. Please come back." As the shadows writhed violently around her, she heard a haunting response: "Help us, or be one of us." What had she unleashed? What would happen next? As the walls around her trembled with the resonance of otherworldly voices, Jess could only hope she was ready to face the truth. But as the darkness threatened to consume her whole, a light flickered in the distance. Was it salvation or something worse? Jess had to find out. Jess blinked against the oppressive darkness, her eyes straining to see the flicker of light that danced in the distance. Hope battled with fear in her chest as she felt the cold grip of the shadows tighten around her, each whisper stabbing through her thoughts like ice. "Help us, or be one of us," echoed in her mind, sending a shiver down her spine. Taking a tentative step forward, she felt a sudden tug at her sleeve. Panic surged through her as she whipped around, but there was nothing there, only the suffocating air and the swirling mass still pulsing in front of her. A steady pulse of shadows churned, knitting together grotesque images of faces long lost, eyes pleading, mouths twisted in silent screams. The voices morphed into anguished cries that clawed at her sanity. Ignoring the cold sweat that trickled down her back, Jess took a deep breath and pushed forward. "Clara!" The name burst from her lips, her voice shaky yet determined. She focused on the light, making it her beacon in the void. It flickered like a heartbeat, inviting yet ominous. As she moved deeper into the room, the atmosphere shifted. The air felt electric, crackling with energy. The whispers swelled, becoming clearer, weaving in and out of recognition. "Find the truth, break the chain," they urged, their sinister undertones layered with urgency. Just then, an abrupt silence fell. Jess's heartbeat thundered in her ears as the shadows drew back, unveiling a figure standing by the light. A girl. Clara? No, it was a different girl, one who resembled her but with chaotic hair and haunted eyes. The resemblance sent shockwaves through Jess, the girl's image overlapping with Clara's and the radiant light surrounding her illuminating the unearthly despair etched on her face. Do you hear them? The new girl whispered, her voice quaking, breaking Jess's concentration. They are waiting, for someone like you. What do you mean? Jess pressed, panic creeping in as she noticed the chilling similarity between the two. The girl stepped closer, her silhouette flickering between shadow and light. You need to make a choice, Jess. The forgotten don't rest until they are freed. But to save Clara, you may have to sacrifice another. The weight of those words struck Jess hard, leaving her breathless. She felt the urge to fight against the darkness growing stronger, but at what cost? A wave of despair crashed over her as she considered the implications of her choice. Returning without answers felt unbearable, yet what would happen if she advanced toward the truth? Suddenly, a jarring noise erupted from the shadows behind her. The whispering became frantic, and the air thickened with tension as the whispers turned to screams, growing louder. No more waiting. Join us. They wailed, echoing through the room with a vengeance. Jess spun around, terror pooling in her chest as she realized they were closing in, threatening to swallow her whole. I want to become one of you. She shouted, defiant, but her voice trembled with fear. Driven by instinct, Jess dashed towards the light, feeling the walls pulse like a living thing, resisting her escape. She reached for the luminescent figure, desperate for connection. Please. I want to help. As her fingers grazed the warm glow, the shadows recoiled, and the whispers morphed into a collective cry, a warped blend of anguish and rage. You can't help. You can't escape. Then, right before her, the light flickered violently before bursting into dazzling brilliance, temporarily blinding her. When her vision cleared, the girl was gone, leaving Jess stranded in the storm of swirling shadows once more. The overwhelming fear clawed at her, as desperation said I end this moment of vulnerability. The echoes of Clara's voice filled her ears, sweetened with sorrow. Jess, it's time. Choose wisely. For Jess, the path forward was both clear and twisted in uncertainty. The shadows pulsed closer, and she felt her courage waning. This is her last chance. Was she ready to embrace a truth that might tear her apart? And as she stood on the precipice of her fate, a new whisper brushed against her ear. Do you dare to dig deeper? The chilling question hung in the air, tantalizingly beckoning her down the rabbit hole. What would she uncover if she chose to delve deeper? Jess could feel the world around her teetering on the brink of revelation, but could she bear its weight? The shadows twitched, curling around Jess like snakes, each one a potential threat that promised to drag her down into the depths of despair. She fought against the rising panic, shaking her head to clear her thoughts. I can't be here, she muttered to herself, hands trembling. I need to find a way out. The whispers returned, sharper now, their urgency cutting through her. Dig deeper. You must understand. Their calls reverberated around her, a cacophony of tortured souls vying for her attention. In that moment of chaos, Jess remembered the girl, the one who had vanished amidst the brilliance. Who are you? She shouted into the void, desperate for answers. The silence that came next felt like a lead weight, pressing down on her chest. Who am I? A voice echoed back, warped and distorted, sounding from somewhere deep within the shadows. Like you, I am but a mere reflection, torn and lost. We are all connected here, Jess. The chains bind us, and they won't let go without a price. Price? The word slipped from her mouth, heavy with dread. What did it mean? What was she supposed to give up? Clara's voice echoed once more, haunting yet pleading. Jess, please help me know. She yelled, fighting against the dark tide. I want to lose you. I want to let another soul be trapped. Each word propelled her forward, but doubt gnawed at her insides like a ravenous beast. But who must I sacrifice? Who do I choose? Suddenly, the room transformed. The flickering light warped the shadows, casting images against the walls, faces entwined with screams, eyes wide in panic. Memories of Clara's laughter, their late-night talks, spun through her mind, weaving a web of guilt. All the good times twisted into a painful reminder of what was at stake. The air thickened, hanging with the weight of the unseen. Break the chains. The voices urged. Break the cycle. They wove around her, their threats morphing into a haunting melody, luring her deeper into the pulsating darkness. Jess squeezed her eyes shut, shutting out the shadows. I want to let fear guide me. If I'm digging deeper, I have to find the core of this. With renewed resolve, she took a breath and began to dig. She reached out with her mind, straining against the veil of darkness. Who are you? She whispered into the air. What happened here? Show me. A surge of energy spiraled around her, pulling her backward into the depths of memory's sudden flashes of light, moments of pain, laughter, and anguish all mixed into a whirlwind of haunting recollections. She was engulfed in a whirlwind of emotions, a vortex dragging her into the very core of her fears. Visions shimmered vividly, girls playing, friendships gasping with laughter, then turning to betrayal, darkness wrapping around them like suffocating vines. Faces twisted, hands reaching out, yet desperately grasping at nothing. Among the chaos, one face hovered above the rest, familiar, distressed, a sense of urgency etched deep into her features. Clara? But no answer came, only the sound of a heartbeat echoing in the silence. Her heartbeat, frantically, she pushed through the sea of faces, letting their pain wash over her. I will set you free. Jess cried, and the moment the words escaped her lips, a thunderous roar erupted from the shadows, shaking the walls around her. The images warped, dissolved into screams of fury. Foolish girl. You think you can change the fate of those bound by darkness? The voice shattered the air, slicing through her resolve. Your trembling heart can do nothing to amend our past. Accept your role in this. Jess felt the shadows rush toward her, the weight of their despair pressing down like an iron shroud. No. You want to take me. Desperation fueled her as she fought against the tide, the light pulsing in her mind like a drumbeat of hope. I will choose my own fate. But as she thrashed against the clutches of the dark, a new whisper broke through, chillingly calm. I see you, and I see your truth. Will you face it? Jess faltered. What truth? What awaited her beneath the shadows that could change everything? An electric jolt of fear shot through her as she felt the air shift, waiting for her answer. In that moment, she felt the walls press in, the shadows seemingly leaning in closer, hungry for her decision. How far was she willing to go to uncover the truth? With the room swirling in chaos as the darkness tightened its grip, Jess closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. I will face it, but what awaits me? And as she shook from the weight of her choice, the room fell silent, the shadows stilling, as if holding their breath for the reveal. What secrets lay curled within the dark, and could she confront them without losing herself? The silence enveloped Jess like a suffocating blanket, pressing against her body, urging her to back down. The whispers faded, leaving her with only her thoughts, the thud of her heart punctuating the stillness, echoing in her ears. In that moment, she felt vulnerable, suspended on the brink of a decision that could define her very existence, but deep within, a spark ignited. A flicker of defiance bolstered her resolve. I'll find you, Clara, she breathed, steeling herself against the looming shadows. Whatever it takes. As if responding to her determination, the darkness writhed, twisting into shapes that were almost tangible. A figure swirled forward, a shadow clad in despair, its features flickering like a candle on the verge of extinguishing. The air grew dense with tension, and Jess stepped closer, heart racing. Do you seek understanding? The figure's voice was a whisper of wind rustling through dead leaves, chilling and hollow. Are you prepared to pay the cost of truth? Cost? Jess repeated, her voice trembling. What cost? The figure stretched a hand toward her, revealing its palm burned and scarred, a testament to suffering. Your past holds the answers and your future may lie in the ones you're afraid to face. Dare you delve into the darkest corners of your being? Jess hesitated, the weight of her memories looming like shadows above her. She remembered furious arguments, the bitter taste of betrayal from those she once trusted. Friends who had transformed into strangers, the edges of her reality blurred by decisions made in heated moments. I can't change what happened, but I can confront it, she whispered, as her resolve deepened. The figure nodded slowly, as if it already anticipated her answer. Then let it begin. In a flash, the ground beneath her feet began to shift. An expanse opened up, a chasm cloaked in darkness, where all her worst moments hung like debris in a storm. She felt herself teetering on the edge of remembrance, the swirling depths pulling her toward those painful memories. The cacophony grew louder, voices swarming as images sprang to life around her. At first, there were flashes of laughter, youthful joy tinged with echoes of betrayal. The faces she once knew morphed into masks of anger, betrayal laced into every emotion. Then shadows flickered, fiery arguments, the crushing weight of accusations, and whispered secrets twisted into daggers. Clara! Jess screamed, reaching out, desperate to grasp her friend's familiar face. But every time she thought she had a hold, it slipped away into the void, swallowed whole by the encroaching gloom. You willingly ignored the signs, a whisper taunted, slithering like smoke. You pushed her aside when she needed you most. No. Jess shouted back, the chaos closing in around her, raw pain coursing through her veins. I didn't know. I was scared. The shadows surged toward her, wrapping around her like serpent limbs, tightening as echoes of the past threatened to overwhelm her. Fear is a choice, they hissed. You chose to ignore the warnings. I can't undo it. Tears streamed down her face as she struggled against the grips of shadowy hands. But I can make it right now. Then make it right. The voice roared, a tempest of anguish, pushing every memory against her. The moment Jess screamed louder than her fear, the shadows flinched, recoiling as she pushed back, a sudden wave of light flickering to life from within her. In the chaotic vortex, a single pulse of clarity filtered through. Clara! She cried, calling out through the maelstrom. I'm here. I'll bring you back. I promise. The dark surged, then abated slightly as if testing her resolve. Leaves of memory began to flutter, revealing fragments that held the key buried deep beneath layers of guilt and sorrow. But even as she reached for them, she felt the chill of doubt wrap around her throat. What if Clara was lost forever? In that fragile moment of hesitation, the air crackled with danger, shadows swirling anew, awaiting her response. Would she risk everything to unearth the truth, knowing it might cost her dearly? Jess, a whisper floated through the dark, softer now, a voice laced with hope. You can free us, but you must embrace what you fear most. With the echoes in her ears urging her forward, Jess understood she had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. The deeper she delved into her past, the more unpredictable the consequences, the more fragmented her grasp on reality might become. As the shadows pulsated around her, their hunger barely contained, Jess steadied herself once more. I will face it. But just as conviction surged within her, another voice crept in, laced with dread. Are you ready to lose yourself in the process? The question hung heavy in the air, as she felt the darkness choke her breath. What would she uncover, and could she find Clara before it consumed them both? As Jess braced herself, she felt an electric jolt race through her body. The air thickened around her, the shadows swirling like a tempest ready to explode. Memories began to force their way through her mind, each one more vivid and painful than the last. She couldn't see clearly, but she felt the sharp edges of her past creeping closer, ready to slice open the wounds she thought had healed. Her heart pounded louder, a steady drumbeat of fear and determination. I have to find Clara, she repeated, grounding herself with the mantra. But as the darkness ebbed around her, an image struck her, a burning pain, a scream echoing through the night. The voice of a girl, a memory long buried, burst forth. Why didn't you say anything, Jess? It was Clara, her face smeared with tears, her voice a raw reminder of Jess's shortcomings. No, Clara. Jess gasped, pressing her hands to her temples as if that could block it out. I was too afraid. Fear tore us apart. Clara's voice slammed into her, the accusation rocketing through Jess's mind like an arrow. You're the reason I was lost. The shadows swelled, twisting around her limbs, suffocating her with their accusations. Each word was a chain, dragging her deeper into a pit of despair. No. Jess shouted, feeling the hot sting of betrayal cloud her thoughts. I'm not. I tried to help you. The shadows laughed, an ugly sound that reverberated against the emptiness. You tried to help yourself, Jess. You ran away when it got hard. Suddenly, she was forced backward, slamming against an unseen wall of utter darkness. Through the suffocating dark, shapes began to materialize, faces of friends she'd lost, friends who had turned against her when Clara needed them most. She could see them now, trapped in the memories, their faces contorted with anger and disappointment. Jess, you can't escape. One of them hissed, moving closer, eyes glowing with malice. A surge of energy shot through her, an unwavering flame igniting with purpose. I want to let you keep her. Jess cried, rallying the last of her strength against the onslaught. You're not my memories. You're just shadows. With that declaration, she pushed forward, launching herself into the whirlwind of faces. She had to find Clara. If this darkness and the accusation spewing from it was all a reflection of her fear, then she needed to confront it. She weaved through the figures, each one reaching for her with clawed hands, but she pressed on, desperate for the glimmer of Clara's spirit. And then she saw it, a light flickering like a fragile flame deep within the chaos. Clara! Jess screamed, charging toward it. I won't give up on you. The moment her voice pierced the darkness, it shifted. The weight of screams faded, replaced by an eerie calm. The faces started to dissipate, screaming in protest as the light pulled Jess and melded into something alive, almost yearning. It enveloped her like a familiar embrace, urging her forward, but just as Jess thought she had broken free, the light flickered. But can you let go of the fear? It whispered, the voices of her past intertwining within it. Can you forgive the choices that led you here? The question twisted around her like a vice, squeezing tight, and Jess's heart nearly stopped. The realization crashed over her. Forgiveness wasn't just for Clara, it was for herself too. I don't know, she stammered, feeling the pull of her past try to latch onto her sense of self again. Suddenly, a powerful surge erupted from within her, igniting the room with brightness that eclipsed the shadows. I can let go, she proclaimed, standing tall against the darkness, pushing through the hesitations that threatened to entrap her once more, but the shadows lunged one final time, desperate to reclaim her. Then embrace the consequence. They howled that a cascade of light erupted from Jess, swallowing the darkness but leaving a creeping question behind: would she emerge whole, or fracture further into the darkness of her choices? The answer dangled in front of her as the shadows screeched, retreating in desperation. In that brutal silence that followed, Jess felt the weight of Clara's absence like a chasm inside her. What if she had to sacrifice parts of herself to save her friend? As she reached for the fading light, it flickered ominously, and deep inside, Jess heard another whisper rise, a chilling promise of possibilities lying ahead. Are you ready to confront the darkest truths? Are you truly prepared to save Clara, knowing there may be no turning back? The light pulsed around her, a heartbeat in the suffocating silence. Jess could feel the remnants of the shadows clinging to her, their tendrils brushing against her skin like cold fingers, whispering doubts and despair. You think you can change? They hissed, their voices a chorus of betrayal. You're still that scared girl running away. No, Jess breathed, but her voice felt small. With a fierce resolve, she pushed onward toward the flickering light that seemed to shimmer like hope. I won't give up on Clara, she reaffirmed, each word igniting a spark within her. A sense of warmth filled her, mingling with the cold. The light seemed to respond, brightening at her declaration. But as Jess crossed the threshold into the heart of the glow, the world shifted dramatically. She stumbled forward, landing hard on gritty soil, the air thick with acrid smoke. The light dimmed, replaced by jagged shadows of trees twisted like tortured souls. This was no sanctuary. Fear dripped down her spine like ice. She blinked against the haze and slowly began to make out shapes among the charred trunks. A figure stood in the distance, silhouetted against the dull remnants of fire. It was Clara, her form flickering like a candle caught in a storm. "Jess!" she cried, but the sound twisted into an echo that bounced painfully in the oppressive air. Despite the promise of familiar comfort, dread surged within Jess. Every step she took toward Clara felt like wading through molasses, pulling her back into the past she was desperately trying to escape. "Clara!" she shouted, her voice an unsteady tremor. "I'm here. I'm coming." But Clara remained just out of reach, tethered to shadows that crawled along the ground, reaching for Jess with thin, claw-like fingers. "Help me!" Clara called, her eyes wide with terror, pulling at Jess's heartstrings. "Hang on." Jess pushed harder, feeling the memories of their time together flood her. The laughter, the joy, the warmth of friendship, and the ache of that last moment they shared the pain of unspoken words. As she neared Clara, the world trembled. The ground shook beneath her, cracking and sputtering like a live wire. "Face it, Jess," a whisper slithered around her. The shadows were curling toward her from every angle. "Can you let go of the guilt? The pain? Can you truly forgive?" Jess faltered, the question settling like a weight on her chest. The earth roared, and suddenly Clara was pulled back, dragged away by the darkness, her distress morphing into something unrecognizable. "Jess!" Don't the words twisted into an agonizing wail as their connection severed. "No." Jess lunged forward, desperation igniting a fire deep within her. She reached out, her heart pounding in reckless rhythm. "I won't abandon you again." The shadows enveloped her, tugging her back with a vengeful strength. Each tendril burned against her skin, wrapped like chains of fear around her heart. Panic surged, clawing its way up her throat. It threatened to swallow her whole, but another part of her, one she hadn't wanted to accept, spoke loud and clear. "Let it go." Jess roared, her voice piercing the thick fog. "I forgive you, Clara. I forgive myself." With that proclamation, light exploded within her, shattering the chains binding her and illuminating the darkness. Waves of energy cascaded toward Clara, who was trapped, fading into shadow. Jess stretched out her hand, pulling all her strength into that single moment as she fought against the dark, but Clara's form flickered, wavering between existence and oblivion. "Jess," she whispered, the space between them growing vast and unbridged. "You have to choose. Save me, or save yourself." The ground shook again, and everything could fall apart in the blink of an eye. The realization hit Jess like a bolt of lightning. She had to decide, could she save Clara without losing herself? With her heart in her throat, Jess took a deep breath, holding on to the fading light of hope. "I refuse to lose you," she yelled, and began to run, determined to bridge the gap. But as she raced forward, the shadows roared in fury, pulling Clara further into their depths. Jess could feel her own strength sapping away, the light dimming dangerously. She screamed Clara's name as a final, desperate cry, then, the ground beneath her feet cracked violently, breaking apart like glass. Jess was falling, spiraling into the abyss, and Clara's eyes locked onto hers, filled with fear and something else, understanding. "Jess!" Clara's voice came as a painful echo. "Don't give up." In that split second, Jess understood the ultimate truth. Perhaps saving Clara meant facing all the darkness, not just for herself, but together. As Jess plunged into the void, a piercing shriek slashed through the air, leaving her to wonder, could they both find their way back, or was this the end of everything they fought for? The darkness swallowed them whole, leaving behind only the whisper of what might come next. Jess plummeted. The rush of air whipped past her, merging with the sound of her own frantic heartbeat. All around, the darkness churned, an ever-hungry void that sought to consume everything. Her mind raced, a jumble of fears, echoes of Clara's pleas crashing against her consciousness. Don't give up. It echoed like a fragile lifeline, tempting her to hold on, to believe. Suddenly, her fall ceased, as if an invisible hand had caught her. She landed softly on something warm yet unyielding, like a bed woven from radiant light and shadow. The sudden change in momentum disoriented her, and she fought against the disorienting sensations. Jess blinked, squinting as lights flared brightly all around her. The scene crystallized, revealing a vast landscape painted in stark contrasts. There were shadows looming at the edges, but in their midst stood Clara, hovering like a spectre, her essence wavering like a candle in a storm. "Clara!" Jess shouted, scrambling to her feet, relief flooding her chest, but pain etched on her friend's face robbed her of joy. "Jess!" Clara reached out, but the shadows curled around her arms, pulling her back ever so slightly, like clinging vines wrapping tighter with every attempt to break free. "You need to understand. It's not just about us anymore." "What do you mean?" Jess's voice cracked, fear coiling tightly in her gut. She felt the weight of the shadows pressing against her, whispering threats and doubts, circling closer. "I came for you." The flickering light surrounding Clara dimmed, and the shadows danced with a frenzy, drawing nearer. "We're bound together in ways we never envisioned. You opened a door I didn't want to see. This isn't just our fight." Clara's voice trembled. "It's bigger, Jess. It's the reason we fell apart." Jess's heart sank, and in that moment, clarity pierced through the chaos. The regrets, the worries, they surfaced like ghosts, and she grappled with them. "Clara, I can't lose you. I want tea. Sometimes, losing what you love most is how love truly prevails." Clara's gaze darkened, flickering as if the shadows sought to snuff out her light, and Jess gasped at the unsettling truth behind those words. Could it be? Did she have to face the pain of loss again, the fear of abandonment? The shadows howled, a monstrous roar that pulsated the ground beneath them, and the earth began to tremble once more. "Choose," they hissed, voices melding into something sinister, urging her to abandon hope. "Only one can survive. Choose." Jess echoed, clenching her fists, the weight of Clara's fate heavy upon her heart. She took a step forward, igniting a spark of courage. "I choose to fight. I want to let you go." But Clara shook her head, the shadows dragging her back, her existence flickering. "You need to." The shadows shrieked louder, drowning her voice in dark chaos. "You must let go." Panic surged within Jess, each second stretching longer than the last. In that chaos, a memory swept over her, a time long past, a moment of laughter shared with Clara. Wasn't he that the love they had? Or was it all just a fading dream? The shadows coiled closer, suffocating her with future regrets and desolate choices. "Jess!" Clara shouted through the darkness. "Believe in you. Believe in us." With that, a surge of warmth flooded Jess's essence, overpowering the chill wrapping around her heart. "You're right." She felt the torrent of emotions rise, a defiance that swirled inside, pushing her forward with strength she thought she had lost. "I believe in more than just survival. I believe in us." The ground rumbled, and light exploded from within her, radiating warmth as dark energy shrunk back in fear. She focused on Clara, glowing with determination. "Let us take this darkness down together." But the shadows answered with one massive, contained roar, shaking the very fabric of their dimension. Clara's form shimmered, like starlight swallowed in despair. "Jess, we need to break the bond. You have to face the truth." "What truth?" Jess screamed as the shadows gripped them tighter. "Face it. It's what binds us." With a gut-wrenching thrust, Jess could feel herself being pulled away as the ground started to fall apart again. "No. Clara." But amid the chaos, a flash of insight pierced through. Could she, Jess, finally understand what she had to let go of? Could she face the truth that had haunted her? An urgent compulsion to push for all they were, all they could still be, surged as she called out. Clara! I forgive you. I forgive myself. And just as everything seemed poised to implode, an unearthly silence fell over them, leaving Jess on the precipice of decision. She could sense the change in energy, a tug at the core of their bond. Was she on the brink of winning? Or had she just unraveled their only chance to escape? The shadows writhed like creatures in agony, but the glow around Jess pulsated. Her heart raced. They could either fall into darkness forever or rise together into the light, but which pathway lay ahead? The choice was no longer just about survival. It had become something altogether different. Something more terrifying. Something essential. What was she willing to risk? Jess felt the silence stretch, like an elastic band ready to snap. The shadows, momentarily stunned, pulled back, seething with rage and disbelief. Clara's light flickered like a dying star, the only remnant of hope in that dark void. "Did you hear me?" Clara cried, her voice drowning in frustration and desperation. "You need to let go. It's the only way to free us both." "What does that even mean?" The words barely escaped Jess's lips as panic clawed at her chest. The option Clara spoke of taunted her. What could she possibly let go of that would change their fate? Clara's eyes bore into Jess, pleading. All the regret. The guilt. The fear of losing me. You have to let go of our past, it's what keeps this darkness alive. The ground shook violently. The shadows screeched, and swirling tendrils lashed out like wild serpents, trying to reclaim Clara. Jess stumbled, her heart racing, a primal instinct urging her to flee. But she couldn't leave Clara behind. "No. I won't abandon you." Jess screamed, feeling the heat of the shadows suffocating her resolve. "I choose to fight. You can't fight them on this battlefield." The shadows tightened their grip on Clara, pulling her deeper into the abyss. "Jess, please." Clara's form began to distort, stretching like taffy. "You can't save me at the cost of your own soul." Jess felt it, the turmoil swirling inside her, a storm brewing of sadness, anger, and determination. She sucked in a breath, forcing herself to focus on Clara's eyes, those shimmering pools where hope flickered still. "I won't lose you." Suddenly, a memory captured Jess's thoughts. Sitting in a sunlit kitchen, laughter spilling freely between them, the way Clara's face lit up at a silly joke. That was the truth she needed to face. They had fought through hard times, mended their friendship, survived heartbreak. But the shadows threatened to darken those memories into forgotten hues if she didn't act. "I believe in us," Jess shouted, letting the warmth of that moment engulf her. "I believe in our light." A radiant glow sparked within Jess, bright and fierce. She reached deep into herself, the warmth mingling with Clara's shining essence, merging into one. The shadows writhed violently, their forms now furious beasts, slashing and fuming, desperate to extinguish the light. "It's not just about survival, Clara. It's about remembering. It's about our bond." Jess's voice rang out with newfound authority, echoing through the chaotic landscape as her light brightened, breaking through the darkness. Piece by piece, the shadows flinched, screeching as Jess shouted from the depths of her heart, "I let go. I let go of my fear, my regret. I forgive myself." In that instant, everything shifted. The shadows shrank back, their ghastly forms twisting in agony. Clara's light surged, illuminating the chasms of darkness, threatening to swallow it whole. The shadows screeched, fading, not as tenacious, not as powerful. "Now. Together." Clara's voice rang like an ancient battle cry, full of shimmering hope. Hand in hand, they joined their lights, crafting a beacon that pushed back against the shadows. The ground began to stabilize, pulsing with vibrancy, shaking off the decay that had seeped into it. Jess felt alive, invigorated, her past no longer a weight but a source of strength, and the darkness trembled amid the fervent glow they created. but just as light began to swallow the shadows, a deep, resonating laughter echoed through the landscape, cold and haunting. The shadows weren't gone, they were regrouping, angry and relentless, ready to strike back. "Foolish mortals," the voice taunted, reverberating around them, slick with venom. "You think this is over? You haven't seen the darkness that lurks beneath the surface." A tremor rippled through Jess as a dark figure emerged on the horizon, more formidable than the shadows they had just vanquished. What is that?" Jess whispered, terror clutching her throat as dread washed over her. The figure's chilling laughter filled the air, wrapping around them like chains. "Meet the keeper of your nightmares." Jess couldn't breathe, a sense of impending doom pressing down on her. The light flickered uncertainly, casting long, ominous shadows around them as they stood on the precipice of a new and darker confrontation. What more was there to face? What awaited them in the depths of despair? The atmosphere thickened, a stifling presence that weighed down on Jess and Clara as the keeper of their nightmares loomed larger, adorned with shadows that twisted violently about its form. Clinking chains grazed the ground, and it spoke in an otherworldly growl, a voice that clawed through their minds. "You dare believe yourselves free?" An icy fear gripped Jess, but Clara squeezed her hand, her own light pulsing with undeniable energy. "We have to stand firm," Clara urged, her eyes fierce. "This is our battle," Jess affirmed, drawing on their shared strength. She could feel the warmth radiating from Clara, anchoring her in this chilling moment. "No more running. No more hiding." Clara's voice trembled but crackled with determination, cutting through the uncertainty. Together, they faced the shadowy figure, their hearts thudding with defiance. The keeper chuckled a harrowing melody that sent shivers racing down Jess's spine. "Foolish girls," it crooned. "Your bond only goes so far." "No!" Jess shouted, her voice rising against the storm. "Our friendship is our power." Suddenly, the shadows lashed out, wrapping around Jess like serpents. Panic jolted through her as they tightened their grip, but she focused on Clara's unwavering light. "Together, Clara!" she yelled as she drew upon the warmth of their memories' laughter, late-night talks, and the promises whispered in the dark. And then it happened. An explosion of light erupted from Clara, merging with Jess's fiery determination. The shadows recoiled, screeching in agony as their light slammed into the darkness. The keeper howled, a sound like nails on a chalkboard. "You think you can defeat me with mere memories?" "Yes." Jess roared, the shadowy tendrils beginning to falter. "Memories are all we have. They're alive, and they fuel us." With their combined force, Jess and Clara pushed forth, brighter than ever before, until they were surrounded in a cocoon of radiant light. It crackled with their shared history, illuminating the darkness they once feared. Each flame held a piece of love, laughter, pain, and redemption, wrapping around them like a protective shield. But the keeper unleashed its fury, eyes blazing. "You think you're safe? I will rend you, shatter your bond." The shadows surged toward them, but Jess pressed forward, heart racing as the ambassador of their past propelled her. "Feel it, Clara. Together, we can harness everything we've endured." "Yes. Let them see their shadows crumble." Clara echoed, and together they directed the light toward the heart of the keeper's darkness, determined to drive it back. An electrifying pulse surged from Clara's core, and Jess could feel it echoing in her chest. They charged forward, an unbreakable wave of light confronting the keeper's heart, the brilliance so intense that the shadows began to split, disintegrating in a maelstrom of light. And then, in that fleeting moment, Clara and Jess broke through with a blinding flash. The darkness shattered, crashing against the remnants of their resolute bond, until the air vibrated with a silence that rang louder than any scream. The chaos fell away, leaving them suspended in a tranquil haze. Clara stood beside Jess, her fingers tightly gripped around hers, the fear of the keeper dissipating as they breathed in the serenity of their victory. "Did we? Is it gone?" Jess asked breathlessly, scanning their surroundings for any signs of lingering shadows. Clara nodded, her eyes shimmering with hope. We faced it. We didn't run away. The shadows will always exist, but they do not define us. We define us together. A hum of laughter rang through the air, a sweet, joyous noise reminding them of every flicker of light they had shared. But then, as Jess turned to face Clara fully, a shadow flickered across Clara's expression. "What is it?" "I fear," she whispered, "the keeper might not be gone forever, just for now." "Then we'll be ready," Jess stated, her voice resolute. "You and me, always." "You're right," Clara smiled, the abyss no longer holding them captive. "And now we can live without the weight of all we've carried." With their hearts aligned, Jess felt the warmth of hope flow through her veins. Life could be theirs once again, on their terms. Together, they walked toward light, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next, fortified by a friendship that could endure even the darkest storms. As they stepped into the soft glow that awaited beyond the shadows, Jess took a deep breath, realizing that love and memory intertwined to shape the journey ahead. They had fought the darkness and emerged into the light not just as friends, but as warriors of their own fate. And as the final remnants of the shadows disbanded, Jess turned to Clara, determination sparkling in her tear-filled eyes. "Whatever happens, I won't lose you again. We have too much to fight for." Their laughter rang out, echoing into the distance, a powerful reminder of their resilience, the tether of friendship, and the promise held in every memory shared. Now, they were free to forge their paths, explore the mysteries ahead, and embrace the light together. You need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on the next exclusive stories and heart-pounding adventures. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the thrill alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this amazing conclusion. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this heart-stopping finale. Let's spread the word together.